Hello and welcome to another edition of Resources for Life TV at resourcesforlife.com. My name's Greg Johnson. I'm the director of Resources for Life, and this is a follow-up video on kind of a similar thread of topic discussion, but a little bit of a different spin on it. And the previous video about the crash of democracy, to summarize it, is just that essentially for democracy to work, there also needs to be a very strong educational system, K through 12 and beyond, available to everybody. That's number one. And number two, there needs to be not just mechanical freedom of the press, but a true freedom of the press. Right now we have kind of these polarized viewpoints, conservative on the extreme and then liberal on the other extreme, in radio talk shows and on TV. So for democracy to work, you really need a broad spectrum of access to the media. Education, access to the media, and then equal representation by all people involved. So the concern is that in a society where education is not supported and fostered and funded as much as it should be, that is so reliant on the democratic process, we stand the risk of what I refer to as a democracy crash. And one of the potential failings of democracy then is if the majority of people is lacking in any way with regard to fairness and compassion. So just an example of that, and that's what this video is about, would be here in Iowa on the University of Iowa campus, we have a policy that states it's a smoke-free campus. I'm going to show you. Here's the sign. So theoretically we have this smoke-free campus, and it seems like a good idea. You know, you can walk around and breathe fresh air and not worry about breathing in a lot of secondhand smoke, either indoors or outdoors. So on the surface it seems like a good thing. Now the problem, of course, though, comes up when you try to enforce such a law. Like the police don't stop people for smoking. I see people smoking all the time on campus when they're not supposed to. And what do you just, citizens arrest? You confront people who are smoking, and that seems a little extreme. So you kind of have to rely on people to respect that law. And the other problem, of course, is that the non-smokers, like myself, who are in the majority, who don't like smoke. I don't like smoke. I'm allergic to it. I'll get a head cold or sore throat just from some secondhand smoke. So, I certainly don't want to be around it. But the problem is, you get this group of people in the majority who happen to be people who aren't addicted to nicotine and tobacco, and then they enforce and legislate their preference and impose that on other people. So as a result, it's pretty nice out today, but another couple of months, 3 months, we get into November, December, January, in the middle of the cold and winter. What's a smoker supposed to do? And what had previously been the policy was that smokers would be given an area indoors, either in airports. You may have seen these smoking lounges. Now, the benefit of a smoking lounge is that the air is purified and cleaned, and it's a restricted area that's set aside for the purpose of smoking. And so for non-smokers, you get the benefit of not having the smoke outdoors or anywhere where you might breathe it, because there would be these designated smoking areas. Well, now that has been done away with. So as a result, you have these crowds of people being pushed out into the cold to feed their addiction. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing there isn't any funding to help with cessation smoking, cessation programs. And it's a real problem. So on one route that I sometimes ride my bike on, there's a huge crowd of people that are just, a few feet outside of the non-smoking area. And just, if you can imagine the cumulative secondhand smoke from a whole crowd of people, It's really disgusting. Well, it's uncomfortable for the smokers because they've got to be outside when it's freezing cold. It's unpleasant for the non-smokers because now I'm faced with this smoke that never would have been there in the first place had the smokers been given a room where they could just go smoke. But here's an example where, quite specifically, the majority, who I would say deserves to breathe clean air, has ruled that smoking's just going to be illegal in some areas. And that means that it makes it very difficult for smokers to get a job if their addiction is strong enough that they really need to be regularly smoking that tobacco. Then, what are they to do? They're going to have to find a job where they can smoke or try to quit smoking. But to suddenly put someone in a position where they have to stand outside when it's 30 degrees below zero, and it even affects, their potential income and their well-being, their financial well-being. I don't know. I think that's a bit extreme. Even though, again, I prefer not to have any smoke around. I think there needs to be a more thoughtful solution to the no smoking issue. So anyway, I'd love to hear back from anyone out there who would have some views on this topic, and as it connects with this idea of the potential failings of democracy, which, again, in category 1 we had democracy needs education, freedom of the press, and people who are willing and able to be involved in the process. But then the second category of failings of democracy has to do with times like, examples like the one I'm giving, where the majority can impose something on the minority, and it's very unfair. And there's no kind of built-in mechanism for compassion, thoughtfulness, consideration, reasonable, rational thinking. I mean, why not have the government put a little more effort into shutting down the tobacco industry, making it easier for people to quit, providing some programs that are funded. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope everybody's doing well. Look forward to talking to you soon.